Yeah, I mean, this will be a match for the books here. It will be the Ringer versus Toast Dab.
Yeah, and I know these guys were talking to each other before the series. Amnesiac, actually being a big fan of Toast, decided to get a picture with him, and I gotta say, I saw Amnesiac on his tiptoes trying to appear taller, because that's what you care about when you're 17. You want to appear as cool as possible, and
I did see that tweet. I believe Amnesiac said, took a pic with the fan. Classic diss. Ooh, spicy start.
I love that DisguisedToast is actually just here in flip-flops, as casual as you can be, and it's cold outside.
Oh yeah, we're out here in Boston. I don't know how I even got to the venue in flip-flops. Freeze my feet off at that point.
But Hunter going to be one of the decks that DisguisedToast is actually going to have a harder time to deal with, because we have so much guaranteed damage with the hero power, the bow, and, Huffer coming out here. Pretty good.
Oh yeah, and I didn't get a chance to see, but did Amnesiac keep the companion and the bow in the starting hand?
I didn't get a chance to see either. But that means that DisguisedToast opted for the Paladin ban in this matchup. Another one of those aggressive decks that he didn't really want to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it does feel like the Hunter isn't that aggressive. Without a lot of board control from the Barnes Hunter, it feels like Spellstone is really the only wave of minion pressure. So Amnesiac going to go ahead and get this bow equipped and start swinging away. And with so many bow charges, it does feel like he's going to have ample time. He's all right affording to miss out on the hero power, going into the Spellstone curve, and then just reloading the bow charges after that as well.
Yeah, a lot of times Mage does have to go pretty fast in this matchup, although you do have the access to that armor gain with the Artificer. So sometimes you'll find yourself in situations where you can run the Hunter out of resources, but then there's always, the Rexar to bring that infinite value and potential damage every turn.
Right, I don't think Rexar is going to matter a whole lot in this matchup. Amnesiac taking some more notes here. Definitely a big note taker, just probably keeping track of how much damage he spent and how much more he's got left.
I feel like DisguisedToast has actually played this deck so much that he's just so used to knowing what cards he actually has left in the deck at any point. We also saw him, finding lethal that most Quest Mage players don't find. I know that the exact lethal came up again, and another Quest Mage player didn't see it to do like the Simulacrum in the same turn as the Quest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for Amnesiac here, the double Unleash the Hound's not going to pick up a lot of value in this matchup. He's just figuring out what's the best way to space out his damage this turn. So you can go for Bow, Arcane Shot, Hero Power, and that'll land 7. With Kill Command and Bow next turn, adding up to 13. So it's going to take 2 to 3 turns at least to pop, as long as Toast is freezing the board. But we see in Toast hand, this Blizzard is kind of a full turn commitment if he has to rely on that the next turn.
As the Hunter, you're always trying to think about how many turns you can have to then pop your opponent. You can see that Ice Block is not up yet. It's actually not in the hand, and neither is the armor gain.
Yeah, for Toast to really turn the corner here, he's going to need to find a powerful turn here and then actually land maybe Artificer plus Blizzard the following turn. He definitely doesn't want to play such a costly spell like Blizzard here, without Artificer for the life gain.
I feel like that has to be one of the most important cards in the matchup for the Mage, being able to gain the armor, just because Hunter has so much guaranteed damage with that 2 every turn, and especially when Hunter does get quickly onto the board like this, all you do need a lot of situations is just that 2 damage every turn to then finish it out.
Yeah, and Catrick also a very welcome pickup for Amnesiac, because as far as freeze effects goes, it feels like for Toast it'll be hard for him to proc the Catrick and get a freeze effect down. Looks like it might be Unleash for 1. Hero Power, set up the Catrick.
And in this situation, you already want to be assembling those combo pieces just because it's such a hard matchup. If you don't have those or the armor gain, it's just so tough for the Mage.
Yeah, and I like the way Amnesiac is setting this up. He has the ability to proc the block now if Toast decides to play that. Bow, Kill Command dealing 5, and the Hero Power dealing 2.
But, that's finally our armor game coming out. does not have something like Blizzard to go with it, but he can then freeze the face to turn. Oh, he actually already used that potion, so a lot of times that 1-2 is just going to get cleaned up by the bow or the flanking strike.
Yeah, this is very problematic for Toast. Amnesiac with both weapons, seemingly just the majority of the burn cards for Hunter here means that he'll be able to proc the block this turn. And Toast just hasn't had a lot of time to draw cards, a lot of time to develop his game plan overall.
But generally, this just is going as expected. DisguisedToast really focusing to beat those Warlocks with this lineup. And also, Amnesiac's other deck is the Spiteful Priest, which he can pick up wins in. But this Hunter pretty much always going to get that win through, just because it's such an aggressive deck.
Yeah, for Toast, it does look like it'll be an Artificer turn here.
But what do you do with it? You know, you don't have the freeze for the board. I feel like you would have to go for a Glyph and try and find something good.
Yeah, it seems like it'll be maybe the most outs would be Artificer, Apprentice, AI, and then try and stack those glyphs if you can't already find one of the pieces you're missing. So you're looking for the Ice block and you're looking to find the freeze and see how that goes.
All right, so he decides to draw because he knows that he can find that Frost Nova, which would then gain him some more armor, and then he could be in a situation where he just hopes that his Hunter opponent does not have damage in hand. But not having an Ice block up, can't have the mana to play it off of this, means that that is going to be... Oh, can he actually get out of range here with the freeze to face? It's still going to be a lot of damage comes out from Kill Command. Yeah, it's just too much damage.
Yeah, it won't be enough here.
But yeah, sometimes you feel bad going down 1-0, but in this situation, you're totally fine with it. Hunter was always going to get the win.
Yeah, and Amnesiac picking up a pretty smooth game 1 here means that he'll have left the Spiteful Priest.
And you know, this is actually my first time seeing Malagos Rogue, and it's just been dominating for the most part. I think it's only dropped 1 game, if that. He's just been able to find those turns to pull out the Malagos from the Kobold and then just fire off a bunch of Razor Petals, Eviscerates, and Sinister Strikes for lethal.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Bob, I felt like the deck would struggle a lot against Cube Warlock because Warlock has so much pressure, but as we saw against Blod, the main game plan is just to sap those Doom Guards back to hand, and as long as Amnesiac doesn't find Skull of the Manari, it's actually a decent matchup for Toast.
And this is going to be a very important match for Toast because with the way Conquest works, if Amnesiac gets the win with Warlock, he doesn't have to play it again. And this is going to be the most important deck for Amnesiac to try and get that win with. DisguisedToast has just had such a impressive job just killing these Warlocks over and over again.
Yeah, and DisguisedToast with a pretty decent start as well. Definitely want to see our Arcanologist coming out early, and the Polymorph, a tech choice specifically for this matchup to deal with the Lackeys and the Mountain Giants that Cube Warlock does have.
And the name of the game for the Warlock in this matchup is just pressure. Amnesiac going to want to tap and get that Giant down next turn. A lot of times that's the way you can beat down Mage. It's either the Mountain Giants or pulling out Doom Guards and copying those.
Yeah, and heads up play by Toast. Going to go ahead and throw out the first Doomsayer, blocking out Amnesiac's Mountain Giant turn here.
Amnesiac just trying to figure out, does he want to make room in his hand? Just dump one of these cards. You can not overdraw if he just wants to pass the turn and wants all these cards in hand, but sometimes there's some cards in this matchup, maybe even something like the Defile, that you know you're not really ever going to get value out of.
Yeah, for Amnesiac, it does seem like he wants to get rid of this Doomsayer in the matchup. So Doomsayer tap seems like a pretty nice, efficient 4-mana play, despite Toast plan to disrupt Amnesiac's turn with the Doomsayer.
The end is coming!
Because you do just want to tap and find yourself deeper in the deck to find something like Skull of Manari, those Possessed Lackeys to start pulling out the Doom Guard, and even something like Cooldown.
Yeah, and I wonder if Toast will even play the Doomsayer again this time.
And that just goes to show what Toast really values in this matchup, and that's just being able to not have that pressure in the early game. He realizes once the Mountain Giant does come down, he can manipulate it. A lot of times you do want to save that Doomsayer in the late game to go with their freeze effects, but he realizes that Amnesiac with open deck list does run Spellbreaker, so heads up play here, playing it now rather than having it being dealt with later. It just does buy him another turn here.
Yeah, it's a little weak to Lackey on turn 5, but Toast does have the answer in the form of Polymorph, and that's a great way to react to the Lackey. That way, it's coming out on your turn, and you have the time to deal with it before Cube Shenanigans come out.
Yeah, it's not a card that you see too often in Quest Mage, the Polymorph, but DisguisedToast realizing that he does want to bully this Warlock. One of the ways you can lose is that Giant or the big Demon coming down early, so just him realizing what his deck wants to do, a tech choice that is ultimately just going to pay off really well for him here.
Yeah, this is kind of a weird crossroads for Amnesiac. Whether he wants to go ahead and silence the Doomsayer now, because the silence later on can be worth a lot of damage. If Toast ends up freezing the Giants, the silence is kind of worth 8 damage later on as well. So an interesting choice from Amnesiac, whether to go ahead and play it out, because his hand is kind of filling up a little bit, or to hold it for later on to pair along with Mountain Giant once it gets frozen.
Yeah, and that actually is just a single copy of Spellbreaker in Amnesiac's deck, so Toast knows for the rest of the game, if he does freeze the board, none of these minions are going to be able to get silenced and push for that pop block or lethal.
Yeah, it does feel like Toast has done a great job here of halting the aggression from the Cube Warlock. You know, the first threat finally coming down for Amnesiac, and it's already turn 6. Toast with both ice blocks in hand already. Just needs to find a little more card draw to space out this hand.
Yeah, a lot of times you already want to be on board as the Warlock in this situation, so DisguisedToast feeling very comfortable here, having a couple of freeze effects. Doesn't have card draw just yet in his hand, but a lot of times once you do find that first Arcane Intellect or Cold Light Oracle, it draws you into the next one. And it's very likely that he doesn't even feel the need to use a freeze effect here. He might want to use this Polymorph on the Mountain Giant. At the same time, though, you do want to use Polymorph on demons just to remove them from the graveyard so they can't be resurrected with Gul'dan.
Deck of Wonders versus Freezing Potion here.
Deck of Wonders has been the go-to card of how Mage comes back in crazy situations. Probably not going to see it here just because Toast is in such a commanding situation, but can he resist the memes? I feel like he's looking up, trying to gauge the crowd's reaction. How badly do they want to see this Deck of Wonders? Because Toast is a man of the people.
I'm really grateful for these noise-canceling headphones. Oh, I don't even know if it'll be a cancel out. The excitement from the crowd that we just got there. Toast picking up the Deck of Wonders.
Yeah, and that just goes to show that even though DisguisedToast wants to win, he also just wants to put on a good show. But on the other side, Amnesiac, he means business. He doesn't care what the crowd thinks. He just wants to win.
Yeah, given the moniker Young Savage, Amnesiac, of course.
He's okay with being Hearthstone's bad boy.
You can't really be a bad boy at the age of 17, but try as he might.
You know, I really like the Twitter interaction the other day. DisguisedToast said that he did move on to the winners finals, and he just had to, you know, wake up for the tournament. That was his goal, and Amnesiac just said, don't bother waking up.
Whoa.
Is this the turn we see the Deck of Wonders go into the deck, the mini Yogg? And I believe it is. All right, so there is some good effects that could happen off the Deck of Wonders, and, you know, some really awful ones as well.
Yeah, and Amnesiac not phased, still taking down notes, but you know, how much
do you
does
think
notes
he wrote
really
down
do?
Deck of Wonders on his paper?
He put down
and now
these
he's starting to write down
5 little
every single
circles for
possible
the,
spell in the game that it could be. And then he's going to say, like, oh, yeah, I wanted to play around.
I mean, in all seriousness, he will have written down Deck of Wonders and put 5 little X's next to it and then crossing it off those X's when he sees the cards drawn. So as a serious player, there are some ways to no-take against Deck of Wonders.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can never play around which spell coming out for them just because there's so many spells in the game. But there are a lot of people here live at PAX East gathering around to see this match. Toast, everybody's favorite player. And Amnesiac, another one that you always want to see compete just because he is so good. And he's just been showing it in this tournament so far.
Yeah, and for Amnesiac, just preserving his board state, spellstoning out the Artificer. And the first scroll comes out.
Unleash the
Wow.
hounds. Okay.
That's a big one.
Amnesiac unfazed by this. This is going to help clean up the board here. A lot of times you're not looking to push damage as the mage just because you don't have any burn in the deck to then pair with it. You're still just focused on that OTK.
Kind of an unlucky draw for Toast here. Arcanologist picked up, but both ice blocks already in hand. It's kind of a dead draw in that sense. But again, I guess Toast does have the ability to freeze the board, play out the Arcanologist, and just keep pressuring Amnesiac now that Unleash the Hounds have come online.
I gotta say, Deck of Wonders was my favorite card from that expansion, and this is my very first time ever seeing it get played in a competitive tournament. Obviously, it was from that random effect, but the fact that he picked it is just so fun here.
Yeah, and Toast picking up the mirror images. It's going to be a halt here for Amnesiac's Doomguard. And wow, already 5 out of 6 done on the quest. But unfortunately for Toast, he hasn't really picked up a lot of card draw, and although he's got 5 out of 6 on the quest, he has a 0 out of 5 on combo pieces. Well, I guess 1 out of 5 with the Simulacrum.
But I feel like he just still has so much time, having that Blizzard and potentially Ice Blocks to gain those turns in the future. And as OTK Mage in this matchup, you're not really worried about any counterplay. Cube Warlock does not run Dirty Lad like Control Warlock does, so no minion's going to get pulled out. Amnesiac finally found a position where he's able to rip out those Doom Guards. And that was a really great play there, just because these Doom Guards are eventually going to die, and then you can bring them back with Gul'dan.
Yeah, and it seems like one of these Simulacrums might have actually been from a Kabbalist Tome. Toast picking up the second piece there.
But he is starting to struggle to find that card draw. But as I said before, as soon as you find that first Arcane Intellect or Cold Light Oracle, it's very likely that you start to draw into the other Cold Light.
Yeah, absolutely. Once the card draw comes flowing, it doesn't stop. It seems like Toast, as soon as he picks up that first piece, will find a way to piece together the rest of the combos.
And he's actually naturally drawn a lot of his decks, so it is getting pretty likely for him to find 1 out of the 4 card draw options in his deck. And even if you don't, there are just cycle cards like the Novice Engineers that will be live draws for him.
Yeah, and a little unfortunate early on in the game, Amnesiac did play Doomguard from hand. It happened to discard the Carnivorous Cube, so in this instance, Amnesiac doesn't really have a lot to go along with Umbra. Instead, he's going to go ahead and Hellfire his own board, setting up the Bloodreaver Gul'dan, which means he'll be able to bring back the 2 Doomguards and pop the Ice Block the following turn, really shortening DisguisedToast's clock here.
Yeah, I realized that if he does not kill off these Doom Guards, there could always be a freeze effect like Frost Nova coming out, so heads up play by Amnesiac and guaranteeing that he will pop that block next turn.
Yeah, and for Toast, he does pick up the first Sorcerer's Apprentice, which means now he'll have 3 in the hand as soon as he plays the Arcanologist. Kind of a turn off for Toast, but he does get to at least put a few more combo pieces into his hand.
An incredible discovery.
Utilizing missiles instead, I believe the sim was a randomly generated one, the left Simulacrum, so he could have gone for that play as well if he chose to do so.
Yeah, and that was a little bit unfortunate that 2 hits went into that Doomsayer, just because if you do push more face damage, sometimes you really do not need those infinite fireballs. You know, being able to make the Sorcerer's Apprentices and complete that quest, if those things do push through, sometimes you can piece together 20 damage, but Amnesiac going to be able to pop at 1 here. Now Toast is going to be on the back foot because he cannot find that card draw.
Yeah, I do feel like Toast kind of realizes that he's very much so on the back foot here, so this might be a game where we see the Sorcerer's Apprentice coming down and maybe glyphing out the rest of the damage, but with both tomes gone and no real burn damage from the tomes, it feels like Toast won't really be able to get there this game. Well, and he does have to rely on a full combo
instead. What Toast can do is he uses the Simulacrum this turn, so no matter what, he can use that Time Warp with the Apprentices to then try and piece together. You could always play the Arcane Intellects for free and potentially get that OTK next turn no matter what.
Yeah, definitely, Bob. And it feels like for Toast, as soon as he finds just 1 or 2 pieces of card draw. The rest will be coming in, and Toast has still a very good chance of hitting the combo pieces here this game.
So if Amnesiac is also worried about his life total, he can siphon life a minion here, just because if you did it on the face, the ice block prevents the damage. You wouldn't have gained the life steal. And if he does want to go up in HP, he can shoot a minion. That's always something to be careful about. You never want to be using that hero power to pop the block.
Yeah, it looks like Amnesiac will go ahead and play out the Void Lord, potentially Dark Pacting it as well, just to make sure he's safe against the oncoming sources of presence damage and the potential of burn damage against his life total.
Yeah, with this play, he's really forcing Disguised Toast to have the infinite fireballs here. And this is going to be the turn where Toast is going to have to play that Time War. So you could play the 3 Sorcerer Apprentices. The Time War will get reduced to 2. That means he can fit in this Cold Light Oracle if he wants to lead with it. And I think it's not that unreasonable to find the OTK here. But this is obviously the turn that he has to go in. Just because if you do find Arcane Intellect, you can find it for free. And Frozen Clone, not too effective here. And finding that Molten Reflection means that now he just has to find the Antonitis.
Someday I'll be just like you.
So in his deck, he still has 3 more Deck of Wonders, which can play a factor. He has 2 Arcane Intellects. And obviously, if he finds the Antonitis, he will just win.
And let's see what this next draw brings for Disguised Toast here.
But this is a crucial one for him here because he cannot allow Amnesiac to get this Warlock through. Because this is the deck he's looking to beat time and time again. And Glyph
Yeah, Glyph can find some
can
card draw.
find some more card draw. He's going to need to find it here. Something like Arcane Intellect. But, oh.
Lesser Ruby Spellstone. Play it out again. Another freeze effect. Not
This
what
is
Toast
just
was
not the
looking for
card
here.
draw that he was hoping for, and that means he is not going to be able to get that infinite fireball. Amnesiac, although does not have any AoE to deal with these Sorcerer's Apprentice. Is killing one enough, though? Because if you kill one, that means you can only play Antonitis in 3 fireballs, which is just 18 damage, and Amnesiac can then recover from it. So being able to just hero power one of these might be enough.
Yeah, this is the big bluff from Toast here because we do know on the caster side that the secret up is not Ice Block. I believe it's actually a Frozen Clone, so as soon as Amnesiac plays out Carnivorous Cube here, proccing the secret,
Right.
yeah, the cover's been blown.
So that was good ordering from Amnesiac, playing the minion, seeing the secret first. He could have beaten Ice Block there, but you know, knowing it's not, he could just get the win. And that's just going to have such a huge implication because, again, that was the deck that Disguised Toast has been crushing this tournament, and that's what his decks are built to beat. That's just one of the strengths of Q-Block. Even in its worst matchups, only has like a 45%, win rate, and that's pretty good because a lot of times in Conquest, you don't want decks that can be targeted too heavily.
Yeah, Q-Block in this meta has definitely been the front runner, one of the strongest decks, and sometimes it actually does backfire a little bit. Amnesiac actually with the Murloc Paladin, so that means Toast banned out
Spiteful Priest, which
Spiteful Priest instead.
I feel like it's a little bit of a surprise just because I feel like Toast's decks do pretty well against the Spiteful Priest, but I feel like he's going to have a little bit of a tougher time dealing with the Murloc Paladin just because it is such an aggressive deck.
Oh, is there a chance that Amnesiac might have queued a ban deck?
Okay.
It does seem to make more sense for Toast to ban out the Murloc Paladin.
You know what? Amnesiac does not have Hydrologist in that deck, so there's never a situation where you're going to find Eye for an Eye to cut off that Ice Block.
Yeah, I mean, this is a little strange. It seems like Toast is having some technical issues maybe, but definitely no issues on Amnesiac's side.
But yeah, Amnesiac repping that black Tempo Storm T, and he actually got the Tempo Storm shirt on too, right?
Yeah. I don't really wear the black one because it kind of paints me as a villain.
Cool. But all right, so we just got word that Toast did indeed ban the Paladin, and that means it's going to be a game loss for Amnesiac. You always have to be careful never to queue that. Okay, so we just got word that it is not going to be a game loss, but they're going to be replaying the match with the correct deck now for Amnesiac.
Is someone injured?
And it looks like Amnesiac will have the Spiteful Priest as his final deck. Toast back on the Quest Mage.
You know, Spiteful Priest doesn't have access to anything like Silence outside of a minion that he could potentially be running, but I don't even think he's running a Silence effect. So a lot of times, if that Frost Nova Doomsayer does come out in the late game, that's going to be a just clear board.
Yeah, I mean, I'd hate to burst your bubble here, Bob, but I believe Amnesiac does have
Ooh, he
2
plays
copies of
2
the
Song
Cabal
Stealers,
Song
right?
Stealers. Yeah. So very weary of potential things that need to be silenced. And I definitely like the inclusion as well in Spiteful Priest. It's just a lot of things that you can't really deal with just with minion pressure. So the Cabal Song Stealers coming in spades here for Amnesiac will be able to answer Doomsayers later on within the game. But Toast, very weary of that himself, decides to go ahead and play out the early Doomsayer here instead.
Yeah, a lot of times these Spiteful decks really do not put on any pressure until it comes to turn 6 when you cheat out that big minion. But we do see, even if that big minion does come out, Toast doesn't instantly need to start freezing the board just because he does have access to Polymorph. Although, this is the biggest Midnight Drake I have ever seen. And Polymorph's just going to have to be used right here.
Yeah,
That's
and
10-4.
what a threat. The 10-4 threatens so much damage. Toast used that early, but Amnesiac does have the follow-up. And this is something Spiteful Priest is great at. Just reloading. Coin Spiteful here for Amnesiac is going to be another huge tempo swing turn for him.
And is there any real minions that could put on additional pressure from the Spiteful Summoner? Are you looking for that 10-drop 12-12, or are you looking for something more like a charge minion from an 8-drop?
You're looking for Lich King and Death Grip. That's about the most impactful combination of cards that you can find off of the Spiteful Summoner.
But we actually know that the Antonitis is in the hand, so Death Grip would not be able to steal that. And even if it does take a Sorcerer's Apprentice in that dream situation, you always have something like Simulacrum to still be able to complete that infinite fireball. But Cthulhu is a low roll. That's usually one of the 3 minions that you don't want as a 10-drop, the others being the N'Zoth and the Yogg.
Yeah, Toast very relieved to see that, but overall, probably still has to freeze the board coming into the next few turns here.
And I would have to imagine that Grand Archivist a lot of times does not play too big of a part in this matchup, especially with 2 of the spells drawn. You're not ever really looking to steal a minion with Mind Control, although making another minion from Free Member could also potentially, you know, provide some pressure.
Yeah, Toast getting rid of a big threat here. Saving these freezes, understanding that overall the Spiteful Priest doesn't have a lot of damage from hand, meaning that he can go ahead and utilize his life total early on, and then save the freezes from when they're the most impactful later on.
Pinch of death count. Heel of shoot.
And this time an 8-drop for Amnesiac.
Shiny here, shiny there.
Geo Sculptor, yep. That's going to add additional pressure with the generation of Wisps in the following turns.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're also Snow Clipper Penguins, I believe.
We're already in that situation that Toast is really going to have to start freezing that board every single turn, just because this is not a board that you can continue to take damage from. He's already at 13 HP, so the very first turn that freeze effect does not come out is going to be the pop.
Yeah, and actually for Amnesiac, he does have the Cabal Song Stealers, which means he can go ahead and pressure with Cthulhu if he chooses to do so. And it's not going to be quite enough over 2 turns because Cthulhu does have a base attack of 6, so after silencing, he'll only be able to get in 12 damage.
But Toast is, you know, relatively close to finding all the pieces of combos he needs. He needs to find that other Sorcerer Apprentice, Molten Reflection, or Simulacrum to get those 4 girls.
Yeah, and here we see that Geo Sculptor, yep, actually becoming a bit of a hindrance. If Amnesiac does play out 2 minions this turn, if Toast freezes the board, there won't be enough room for Amnesiac to play the secondary silence effect because the Geo Sculptor Yip will push out another 0 mana cost minion, filling up Amnesiac's board.
I am pretty surprised that Amnesiac did go for the silence here, just because you know, even in this situation, if your board does get frozen again, even if you silence the Cthulhu, which is the highest attack minion, you're not going to be able to pop your opponent. So could it have been better to hold that silence effect to potentially pop the block 2 times in a row when you potentially do push in after a freeze effect?
Yeah, Bob, you're thinking about a larger minion such as Lich King coming out, and then we can silence that over 2 turns, deal the 16, and on top of that, get online the Death Grip card, potentially, from Lich King.
So you think no matter what, he's looking to play that Lich King next turn?
I feel like Amnesiac could have just dropped the Lich King this turn, actually, and actually awards him a few more outs overall.
Yeah, I feel like that would have been better if he did get that Lich King down, just because it is then providing the card generation. You can find damage from hand. Very likely, Death and Decay, Death Coil, and Frostmourne, all providing those options.
Right, and there really isn't much that you care about overdrawing from the Spiteful deck. He's got plenty of resources left to play out for the rest of this game. So Lich King will come down this turn, threatening the block pop next turn as well.
He's really looking for damage from hand, and that's just not it. It's going to guarantee that the board will never die, but that was already the situation.
Yeah, for Toast picking up an additional combo piece here. Not quite enough. It might be just a turn to play out the Kabbalah's Tome alongside the Frost Nova here.
Interesting.
And as you said before, we
That's
do know
actually
that
a great
even
pickup.
if that Frost Nova comes out, Amnesiac does have the access to pop this turn with the silence on the Lich King.
No more. He's got
Oh,
Shattered
yeah, you're right.
for the Lich King.
But is he going to do it? I would imagine so. I just want to call up that card generation and finding that Shatter. It's a great pickup from that Kabbalah's Tome.
yeah,
And now that just means the block is going to buy him another turn.
it definitely felt like it was a saving grace here, but the one Lich King card that Amnesiac did pick up will be Anti-Magic Shell, making it so that either the silence on the 5-3 or the 6-5 will be able to pop the block here.
Even though it was not damage from hand, it was able to still pop the block. Now we're going to be in a situation where Deck of Wonders has to bail Toast out. It was pretty good for him last game, getting that Unleash the Hounds in a situation where he could help clean up the board, but now we would really need a miracle.
Yeah, and for Toast, it seems like he'll have picked up 4 combo pieces, and I'm not quite sure where the quest completion lies at this point.
Yeah,
Actually,
I think he
a quick
needs more than just what's in hand to complete the quest as well.
For Disguised Toast, when you play Deck of Wonders with the quest up,
The things you draw do not count.
They,
no.
they do not count for it. Okay.
It'd be cool if it did. It would make Quest Mage wackier for sure, but it just counts as playing Deck of Wonders, like, or whatever the name of the card is you shuffle. Scroll of Wonder.
Yeah, it seems like Toast has only gotten to about half of the quest completion, which means Deck of Wonders seems like the miracle draw here, because Toast won't be able to find the 5th and final piece of the quest, along with the random effects to finish it up.
Yeah, is there anything he could find? Is it just Kabbalah's Tome?
Yeah, we leave it up to the scrolls at this point. Tome would maybe be enough. The
right.
Apprentice's Tome into
5 scrolls right off the top. Start off with Doom, get you a bunch of cards in hand. Doom would be good.
Well, as long as Doom isn't fatiguing you at this point, I feel like Toast does kind of need that out.
Do you miss the days of Yogg? Because, you know, Deck of Wonders is mini Yogg, but a lot of times you don't even draw them.
Yeah, with the scrolls in deck, I believe, is Amnesiac able to discover the scroll for himself as well?
Ooh. That would be wacky if he decides to go for that.
Yeah. Professional players learning Hearthstone interaction live right here on the desk.
I feel like that would be interesting if he did decide to go for that. Maybe he does not just want to throw the game with a random spell just because he feels like he's in such a good position here. And although Disguised Toast does have the 4 apprentices and the Antonitis, he does not have the quest complete just yet. And
Well played.
I think that's going to be him going down here. Amnesiac continuing to just stomp in this tournament so far. But if you're a Disguised Toast fan, no worries. he's just going down to